Hey friends, it is Jenna, what is up, and welcome back to the Board Game Garden, and welcome to a preview of this game right here. This is Rise of Babel. It is published by Bedouin Games, who's sponsoring today's video, so a huge thank you to them, and it's designed by Ivan Alexiev and Elijah Morer, and this game is going to be up on crowdfunding, and I will have the link to the campaign down below if you guys are interested. Today I'm going to be going over an aim of the game as well as all of the components, which I will say right now are a prototype, but it is a pretty nice prototype and it looks like it's pretty close to being the finished product. And then I will also be going through a little bit of an overview of the aim of the game. This game is for 1 to 4 players, so yes, for all of my solo people out there, there is a solo mode, which I'm very excited to play. I haven't played it as of yet. It is ages 8+ and it plays in about 60 to 90 minutes. So if you guys are interested in hearing more about Rise of Babel, then just keep on watching. Give this video a big thumbs up. Also hit that subscribe button down below if you've yet to do so. We'd love to have you here in the garden. Without further ado, let's get into this preview, shall we? Alright, so getting into a little bit of an aim of the game of Rise of Babel. So every player is going to be playing as a builder, and you are going to be transporting goods via elephant. Everyone's going to have an elephant, which I think is very cute. And you're going to be transporting these resources to this tower, and eventually you are going to want to contribute a lot of resources to this tower in order to gain victory points. So the game is played over 3 rounds. You're going to start with the smallest tower here, and then you go into the second round where the tower is a little bit bigger, and then going into the third round where the tower is the biggest. So you have 3 full rounds, and at the end of each round, you're going to be scoring for all of the tiles in the tower. Those tiles are going to be taken off, and then you're going to move into the next round. And this game is primarily a deck building game, so you're going to be doing a lot of very commonly known deck building kind of mechanics or mechanisms, where you're going to have a hand of 5 cards, you're going to splay those cards out, and then use all of the abilities on the cards, as well as buy new cards to put into your deck or into your discard pile to then be shuffled into your deck at a later time. You also have your own player board where you can upgrade different things. You're also going to be taking chips or pieces or resources out of your bag, putting them into your stalls over here, and then you're going to be transferring them either to your warehouse to then put them into the tower, or you're going to be transferring it to your area here with your elephant in order to move the elephant to the tower and place your resources there. So at the end of each round, like I mentioned, you're going to be scoring for the resources that you have put into the tower. Each type of resource is going to score in a little bit of a different way, which we'll get into. That is everything for the aim of the game. Like I said, I'm going to go over all of the components, which are prototype, but they are very nice prototype. So starting with this board in the center, this is the main board here. At the bottom, you will see that each player has their own elephant. The elephant can only carry 1 good, but eventually you can upgrade your elephant to carry 2 goods, and then eventually 3 goods as well with this little cart in the back. So that is something that you can eventually upgrade on your board. So each person has an elephant, and you will see that it takes 1, 2, 3 steps in order to get from where your elephant is all the way to the tower. Once you've gotten to the tower, you would drop off that good that you were carrying or the goods that you were carrying. You have the tower here, which, like I said, it starts off in its smallest form, and then for each round you will have more space to place those resources with the second and third round. It starts off with 9 different spots here. You also have each round these 4 smaller towers on the side that are always going to have 4 spots each. Those will also be counted at the end of each round as well. Those will be taken off, and then new ones will come back on for the second and third round. So that is that. Here you have where you're going to be scoring your points. These are influence in the game, so you're going to be going up here, and then once you've gotten to 10, you're going to go back to the bottom, and then this one will move up. So that is the increments of 10 here. You will also see these little like confusion tiles, which we'll get into those in the how to play, but that is where you're going to be tracking your influence. Over here on your right side, we have some wild tokens, which each player is going to have their own colored tokens, but the wild ones can be played into the tower, and it's going to count for everyone's scoring at the end of the round. We also have some like specialty resources here that you can gain through upgrades on your own player board. And then lastly, in this bottom right-hand corner, you have all of the scoring and the way that each of the individual goods will score. So that is everything for the main board. Like I said, here we have some more confusion tiles. We also have the second and third round boards. We have the extra player components over here. So you have the yellow player, the red player, and the blue player. And then you also have the boards there. Each player is going to get their own board, their own bag of their resource tokens, as well as every player is going to start with the same 10 cards that they're going to shuffle, pick up 5 on their first turn, and have those to use. You also have some player references here, which is great. I love when games have great player references. So you have the basic actions here that you're going to see on a lot of the cards. And then you also have the warehouse and the turn order and end of turn. So those are all of the player references there. You have, moving up to the front here, the market. So there's always going to be these 2 cards available. There is a stack of all of the same cards, which you often see in these types of like deck building games where you have those like more basic cards that you can purchase for a cheaper amount. So we have the Teamster as well as the Jobs cards here. Like I said, it's just a deck of the same cards, and those can be purchased throughout the game. And then you also have the ever-changing market here of 5 cards. So there is a big deck here of a bunch of different cards, and those are going to kind of be refreshed as people purchase them. So that is the market there, which we will go over what the cards mean and everything on the cards, different things like that. And then also right here, there is the solo mode, like I mentioned, which I'm excited to jump into that eventually. And then I'm gonna go over the personal player board here. So this is your warehouse. This is where you're going to do a lot of upgrading, and also this is where your stalls are, different things like that. So on the left side here, like I just mentioned, you have your stalls. This is where you're going to be taking a lot of the goods. Whenever you take a good from a stall, you're going to replenish it from your bag here. And most of the time you're going to be using cards to take from your stall to either place into your warehouse, which is this top spot here of your board, or you're going to be taking from your stall and putting it over here with your elephant to transport to the tower. You also have this upgrade track system in the center here. So each of the goods, eventually you'll get cards that allow you to upgrade these things. The first upgrade of every single one of the goods is always going to get you one of these double resource tiles. These will be placed right into your warehouse, and then eventually you'll be able to transport that to the tower via your elephant, or there are some cards that allow you to take straight from your warehouse and place it onto the tower. Different things like that, but that is the first upgrade of each of the spots. And then moving towards the other upgrades, every single track of every single resource is going to be slightly different. And then there's going to be some tokens at the end of each of these tracks that are going to give you different things. You have a token that gives you one of any resource you want, so that goes straight to your warehouse, and it actually always comes straight back to your warehouse, which is really nice. You have a token that gives you extra gold. Each turn you will flip it over when you use it, so it'll be 2 gold. If you use that on a turn, then you'll flip it over and it'll be 1 gold. Flip that over, it'll be 2 gold, so you kind of go back and forth between 1 and 2 gold, and that's just going to help you purchase stronger cards. And then next you have this tile here, which this is actually a one-time ability tile. So once you get to the end of this track, you will use this and then it'll be gone. But this is basically that you can trash a card from, I believe it's either your discard pile or your hand, and then you can pick up a new card of any value. So any card you want from the market you can take. And then this one here, you actually place onto one of the spots that the elephants are going to go through. And that actually allows you to move your elephant 1 more space when transporting, and then you flip it over. And then this icon here is that it will allow you to take 1 resource from a stall and then place it in your tent with your elephant. And then that will flip over again. You can continue doing that until the end of the game. And that's like an ongoing ability. So there's a bunch of different things that it will allow you to do. This is also where you're going going to get the upgrades to allow your elephant to carry more resources. And then also, instead of actually upgrading your elephant's cart to allow you to transport more goods, you can actually decide instead to get one of these specialty carts. So if you decided to do that instead of upgrading your elephant's cart, you would take one of the 4 specialty carts, there's one of each of the different resources, and you would place it into your tent, and that would actually, in the future for the rest of the game, it would gain you 1 influence whenever you dropped off that specific good. So for example, with this one here, if I got this for the rest of the game, whenever I transported a stone good to the tower, specifically only by elephant, I would gain 1 influence for that. And you're just moving those tracks along with different card abilities in order to get stronger things and ongoing abilities and upgrades. All right, so that is everything for an aim of the game as well as the components, but let's get into exactly how Rise of Babel plays. All right, so like I mentioned in the aim of the game, this game, Rise of Babel, is played over 3 rounds. Each round is going to have a tower that you're going to work up to completing as a group, placing your resource tiles of your player color in the tower, and then eventually, once it's full, you will do some end of round scoring based off of the different resource scoring. You're going to clear off that tower, you're going to clear off the 4 towers over here, you're going to gain new towers here, as well as you're going to proceed to the next tower. So that is everything for the general flow of the game. Once the end of the 3rd round has been completed, the player with the most influence will be the winner. So getting into exactly how a player's turn is played. So like I mentioned, each player is going to start with a basic deck of cards. Each player will start with 10 cards in their draw deck. You're going to shuffle all of those cards. Each player is going to have the exact same set of cards. And you are going to, at the beginning of your turn, draw 5 cards from your draw deck. You will then look at your cards, and you can just do it like this, like holding your cards, but they do recommend just splaying out all of your cards in front of you, and then you'll be able to kind of see what you can do on your turn. So when it comes to the cards, let me kind of give you guys a little bit of an example of a card. So a card is always going to have the title at the top. If this is a starter card, it's going to have the little wave icon in the top right hand corner. And then if it is a card that you purchased from the market, it is going to have a gold cost in the top left hand corner. So there are a few other things that the cards in the market will have, which I will explain in a second, but most cards just have the title at the top and then the abilities at the bottom. So you will notice that some of the cards will have 2 banners and some of them will have 1. If it has 1 banner, you are simply just going to do whatever that banner tells you. So sometimes it will be an action and sometimes it'll just be some gold. Like this wealth card here is just simply, it gets you 1 gold in order to purchase at the end of your turn. And then this one here is the fast track. So this is going to have 2 banners. And the important thing to remember about using a card is that you can only ever perform one of the banner actions. So here I could either take a good or a resource from my warehouse and place it directly into the tower, or I could take a good from my stall and place it into my warehouse. There's also abilities that allow you to move your elephant. So this one here is elephants. I can either move my elephant 1 space. I would obviously want to have a good or a resource on my elephant before I did that. Or the other ability here is that you can move one of your resources from your stall into your tent or onto your tent space. Whenever a good is placed onto your tent space, you can then take your elephant and move it on a future turn. As long as it's at the tent, the elephant can pick it up and then you can move on a future turn. So I will go over a lot of the icons that are commonly going to be seen, but that is pretty much what you're going to be doing on your turn. You're going to be drawing 5 cards and then performing 1 action from each of the cards. You may also decide to use some of your cards for their gold if they do have that as one of the options. And then you can look at the market and decide what card to purchase. If you do purchase a card, it will go directly into your discard pile, and then once your draw pile has run out, you will shuffle your discard pile, and that's when you will have access to the cards that you've purchased from the market. So once you have finished all of that, you would then take all of the cards that you played on that turn, place them into your discard pile, and then you would draw up 2 5 cards for your next turn. This will continue turn by turn until the tower is full. You'll then move into the end of round scoring, which, like I mentioned, you will then be scoring all of the resources in the towers, depending on the player color as well as the resources. So each of the different resources is going to score in a different way. So first off, you have the brick, which is this blue cube here. Brick is going to be scored based off of vertical lines. So anybody that got 2 or more in a vertical line of this type of resource will gain victory points. So for 2, you'd gain 3 victory points, 3, you'd gain 6, 4, you'd gain 10, and then 5, you gain 14. So the 5 is only ever available in the 3rd round because it is a 5x5 grid. The 2nd round is a 4x4, and then the 1st round is a 3x3. So as you get to the 2nd and 3rd round, you're going to be able to gain victory points or more victory points than you would in the 1st round. So that is the brick, scored vertical lines. Wood is going to be the brown cubes here, and those are going to be scored for horizontal lines. So any wood that you have of your color in horizontal lines will score the same way as the vertical. You also have the stone or the white cubes here. Those are going to be scored based off of diagonal lines. So again, you'll be scoring more and more victory points for the more that you can get in a diagonal line. And then lastly, you have the tar, which is going to be scored in sets of 2 beside each other. So that's going to be, vertical, horizontal, just any set of 2 that you have, you will score 2 victory points. So that is for the tar. And then lastly, I mentioned the confusion tiles. So whenever a player passes one of the spots on the influence track here that has a confusion tile, they will take a confusion tile and add it into the tower. So that is whenever they pass the 5 and the 10. I do have them placed on the board here, but whenever someone takes one, another one will be placed there. Or there is also an icon on the board, so you don't actually have to place them on the board. That's just something that I did personally, but there is an icon on the board, so it tells you that whenever you pass this, you take confusion tile and then you're placing it into the tower. Whoever does pass is the one that gets to take it and decide where to place it. And the interesting about confusion tiles is they're a little bit mean because when you are scoring for these towers, whoever is adjacent to one of these confusion tiles is going to gain -1 victory point. So if there's a confusion tile and the green player has 2 next to that confusion tile, they're going to gain -2 victory points. I will also mention that there are some cards that allow you to place these wild resources. The resource themselves aren't wild. This is actually a stone, but it can be used by any player. So it represents every single color of players. So if this is placed onto the tower, that is actually representing any player's color and can be used by any player. So once all of the scoring has been completed for that round, you would then take off all of the tiles. The wilds will be placed back over here. Every player will get their colors back and place them back into their bag. And then you would move on to the next round. You would take the next round's tile, place that on top, and then you would move into the next round. Another thing to also note about placing resources onto the towers is you guys will notice that there's already icons printed on the tower. And basically this means that whatever resource you decide to place onto this tower, if it matches the icon that is already on the tower here, you gain 1 influence. And then also there are some different icons here. So if I placed this wood on top of this icon, this would allow me to take a resource from my stall and place it directly onto my tent. And then also lastly, if you are the player to place the last resource onto a tower to complete the tower, you will actually gain 1 influence as well. And that includes the large tower as well as the 4 smaller towers on the side here. So the game would continue to play like this for the 1st round, 2nd round, and 3rd round. And once the 3rd tower has been scored, then you would move on to a few other things for endgame scoring. So any cards that you purchased from the market, there might be some cards that give you victory points right away when you purchase them. So if you ever see a card that you purchased from the market with the blue victory point kind of icon there, that's going to get you victory points right away. But if you ever purchase one from the market that has an orange victory point or influence icon. That actually is victory points or influence that you gain at the end of the game. So you would count up all of your end game influence from the cards that you purchased. You will also be gaining end game influence on your board as you unlock things. So the first spot on each of the resource tracks, if you unlock those, they gain you 1 victory point. And then the last spot on each of your board will also give you 2 victory points each. So you're going to have some unlockable victory points on your board, some victory points from the cards that you purchase, any victory points that you got throughout the game for the resource placement on your towers, and then the player with the most influence or victory points at the end of the game will be the winner of Rise of Babel. All right, so now that we know exactly how the game plays, I do want to quickly go into some of the icons that you will see. So there are a bunch of different icons. Some of them are included in your starting cards, but a lot of them are included in the cards that you can purchase throughout the game. So there's going to be a variety of different icons that you see on cards, but I'm going to kind of point out the ones that are a little bit different and the ones that you will not be seeing quite as often. So this one here, if you ever see a card that has an X, that means that you will be trashing a card either that you've already played and that is in front of you, or one from your discard pile. There's also a black card with a plus sign. That's going to be picking up an additional card from your draw pile to play that turn. You also have a gray card with a plus sign. That is actually gain a card from the market. You will take it from the market and then place it into your discard pile. This one here is that you would have to take one from the market that costs 3 gold or less. You also have this here. If you ever see a magnifying glass, that is the searching icon. So this here is a magnifying glass and then your bag. So this basically is that you will be searching your bag and then getting 3 tiles to place into your stalls. So that's that one. This one here is actually discarding one of your own tiles from the tower. So if you are wanting to try to get another good in there to score a little bit better, you might want to take one of your tiles away, or if someone placed a confusion tile by one of your tiles, you might want to take that away as well to avoid that negative victory point. This here, another magnifying glass, but this is a red plus card. So this basically means that you can search your discard pile and then take a card from your discard pile and put it into your hand, which is kind of nice. This one here is if you ever see a black card with a red slash through it, that actually means that you're going to trash this card itself in order to do the ability on that card. So this here also has another icon, which I will explain, which is pretty straightforward. But this card here, the universal card, would allow you to discard or trash this card in order to place 2 wild resources into the tower. So that is a pretty good card there. This market card here, if you ever see gold in a red box, that means that you would have to pay that gold or use that gold that turn in order to do this ability. So you'd have to have that gold in the other cards that you played that turn in order to play this action. So you would use those 2 gold and then you'd be able to take a wild resource and place it into the tower. And then lastly, you have these like gambling cards, which is kind of fun, where you're going to actually take a resource randomly out of the bag, and then depending on the resource that you draw from the bag, you're going to get some sort of reward. So if you drew a brick, you'd gain 1 victory point. If you drew a stone, you'd gain 1 gold. If you drew a tar, you'd gain 3 gold. And if you drew a wood, you would gain 3 influence. So that is the tradescraft card. And those are a lot of what you're going to see. You're going to see the tile icon for your stall tiles. You're going to see the warehouse icon. You're going to see the tent icon, the tower icon, the moving your elephant icon. Those are all pretty straightforward and ones that you're going to see quite often, but all the other ones I pretty much explained there. So that is everything for how Rise of Babel is played. All right, friends, so that is going to be everything for this preview of Rise of Babel. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, please give this video a big thumbs up. Also hit the subscribe button down below if you've yet to do so. We'd love to have you here in the garden. Comment down below if now that you know exactly how this plays, if it is a game that you are interested in. I'd love to know down in the comments. A huge thank you again to Bedouin Games for sponsoring today's video. I appreciate it very, very much. Definitely go and check out Rise of Babel over on crowdfunding if you're interested. I will have the link to the campaign down in the description box. But yeah, I love you guys so much. Remember, you are somebody's reason to smile, and I will see you in the next board game video. Bye, friends.